Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So we are back with The Flash in less than a week. Actually, only 4 days or so, I think, from when this video will go up. And though we didn't get another trailer in the lead up to the Season 8 premiere, which was quite a surprise, something that was expected in the week leading up to the premiere was some interviews and previews for the season, and I guess more specifically, the 5-part Armageddon event that will be kicking it all off. Now, I was probably expecting an interview slash preview thing with Eric Wallace, the showrunner for The Flash, but instead we got it from The Flash himself, that of course being Grant Gustin. Now, there are 2 main interviews out there at this point from what I know and what I've seen at least, so we will go over this one from TV Line in this video, as it is the one that covers sort of the most topics on the most broad range of topics, but I might include the other interview, which was shorter as well, in another video over the next couple of days with some other minor news for The Flash that's come out over the past, few days for this season. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various thoughts, opinions, theories, predictions, just general everything in the comment section down below. I was curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to what is previewed here by Grant Gustin, be sure to drop a like on the video to show support and excitement. And also, quickly, the link to the interview will be in the description down below if you want to read it yourself. But why read when you can listen? So let's go. How is life for Barry when Season 8 opens? Life is good. The kids, Nora and Bart, have gone back to the future to 2049, and our theme when we pick up is that we've all leveled up. So we're seeing this version of Barry that I've hoped for a while. I think it's about to say a while now. He's feeling a little more confident. He's really coming into his role as a leader. He still depends on the team, but is taking on a leadership role more so than we've seen in the past. Barry and Iris are in a good place, life is good, which feels like the start of a season, and as we all know, it will probably get flipped on its head pretty quickly. So, with Nora and Bart, it's not too much of a surprise that they've gone back to the future because, well, they're not in Armageddon. We know they're not in Armageddon. They haven't been seen on any sort of set, any primary images, the trailer, they weren't there, there was no hint at them. It's just at the end of last season, sort of suggested that they'd be there. But we know that they're coming back into the show in episode 6, I think it is, or maybe 7. I'm pretty sure it's episode 6 though. So as soon as Armageddon's done, they'll come back for an episode or 2, but they're not there for the beginning of this at the very least. In regards to all this leveling up, we saw obviously that Barry or the Flash, got more powerful at the end of last season. So I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm interested to see what they mean by we've all leveled up. So does that mean Chester, Allegra, everyone else? What does that mean? So I guess we'll have to wait and see what that means, in these opening, I guess the opening episode, but I guess the opening handful of episodes. I know there's going to be people that complaining oh my God, Barry still needs the team. But we've gone over this before. We've gone over this since season 2 and 3. Barry needs the team. Barry can't monologue in his head. He has to be able to communicate with people. So he needs that team around there. I will never agree with people that say that Barry should be on his own. So he needs the team, but I'm really happy that this leadership role, because this is something that I think I've agreed with, and I think we've all said, is that Barry should have been the just straight up leader since season 3. Season 2, fair enough, but season 3 and definitely 4. He should have been the straight up leader. No one should have been really telling him what to do, just sort of providing advice. And that sort of hasn't been the case. It's sort of been a bit inconsistent. So if they really stamp down, he's the leader, it's Team Flash, he is the Flash, he should be the leader. If there was a thing called Team Pagey, you'd expect me to be the leader, wouldn't you? So, or if it was Team Jacob and your name was Jacob, you'd expect yourself to be the leader if your name was Jacob and you're in that group. So I'm happy that's the case. Is there any indication that Barry and Iris are still quote-unquote trying to start a family? Yes. Subtly, yes. Quickly, there's too much going on to touch on that on a regular basis, but in the premiere, it's still a theme. It's acknowledged. So we know that based off Nora and her age, that they shouldn't be giving birth, or Iris and Barry shouldn't be having Nora for another few years. So, oh no, sorry, I think it's 2 years. I think it was 2 years in that episode in season 7 roughly, or something like that. So at the very least, Iris might get pregnant at the end of this season at the earliest, I think it is. So I think I'm just going off the head in regards to my timeline of what was said on the show, but I think Nora's birth was still a year or 2 away from when she came back last season. So yeah, don't expect Iris to get pregnant in the premiere. If anything, it might be in the finale for this season. How do we get the first whiff that Armageddon is coming? We're dealing with the Royal Flush Gang, who first showed up on The Flash in Season 1, I believe. They've also kind of leveled up, but Barry is handling them pretty easily. Then, towards the very end of the episode, Despero shows up for the first time, and essentially says that Barry is going to be the cause of the Armageddon to come. Barry, first of all, is in disbelief and tries to tell Despero, that this is just not possible, but there's enough evidence that Despero gives to leave Barry pretty concerned that this future is something that might end up happening. So firstly, it's cool to see the Royal Flush Gang. I know they were in Arrow Season 1 fairly early, and I had a look just before I made this video, and they appeared like halfway through Flash Season 1, I think, but they were sort of like a different version than what showed up in Arrow, so I'm very curious to see they're leveling up. Are they going to look more like the version from the comics and everything like that? So it's cool to see them bring a villain or a group of villains from so far back in the past. So that's cool to see. In regards to the Armageddon stuff, I'm assuming that Despero is just going to deliver the dialogue in regards to what happens. But then again, Despero might be able to show Barry because of like the whole, telekinetic stuff that he can do. Not telekinetic, telepathy. So he might be able to show Barry his memories and stuff, or like the visions of the future or potential future. So maybe we see them. We'll have to wait and see what happens there in regards to how Despero sort of tries to push to Barry, like, yeah, you're the cause of it, mate. You're the cause of it. And we're going to have to try and deal with that before it actually, ends up happening. What kind of alien is the awesome Tony Curran giving us? Is he regal? Is he a smartass? Is he badass? Tony is everything, man. I had so much fun working with him. It's cool because we're going to see a human side of Despero and an alien side. I haven't seen what the final product is going to look like because I was working with a human with dots on his face at times, but Tony's performance is awesome. He's badass, but he's one of those villains where you understand where he's coming from because it's all grounded in a truth for him. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic with Despero as a villain, that we don't necessarily know his straight up motivation and what he gets from it, but you can tell that there is some truth behind it, as Grant is saying there. That he's obviously got some backing for what he's saying. Now, whether it's exactly what will play out in the future is another question, but I guess it's something that Despero truly believes is going to happen, and it's up for him to sort of impede in the potential course of those events playing out. So I'm curious to see what his final form looks like. We know we see it in episode 1, so it's going to be at the end of episode, like he says there, like Despero shows up towards the end of episode 1 or something like that, and we know that's the alien form. So we're going to see it in episode 1. We're not going to have to wait till episode 3, 4, 5, so we're going to be getting it in less than a week, so I'm very curious to see what it looks like. What I've been trying to figure out ever since this event and the casting was announced is, what skin do Damien Darhk and Eobard Thawne have in the big game? Well, we're going to see a couple of different timelines, I guess you could say. It's cool. It's a bit of an alternate reality that we're going to be in. That was another thing. I had a blast working with Neil McDonough and Tom Cavanagh. I'd never worked with Neil before, and their parts in our storyline are integral and pretty cool. So this is the pretty much official confirmation and stuff that I was saying in videos, which people sometimes, I saw some people like going, oh no, you're talking crap. And I was like, well, no, there's a pretty good backing for it. So this confirms it, that we're going to be getting like this sort of like alternate reality timeline sort of thing. I think it's going to be that potential futures or futures based off certain decisions, which I guess is alternate futures as well. So I'm curious to see how they play it off and whether there's episodes that straight up focus in those potential timelines or potential realities or alternate realities. But this confirms it, which is really cool to see, and it gets me very excited to see what they can do with it. It sort of explains potentially some stuff that we've seen from set as well. In regards to the Neil McDonough and Tom Cavanagh thing, I'm very curious to see how their, what their roles are in this crossover or this 5-part event or this special event, whatever you want to call it. Grant doesn't really dive too much into what they could be. We're just led to believe that there's like an alliance between the two. So is their alliance connected with Despero? Is it just for themselves? Is it in one of the alternate timelines where they're having alliances, like another form like the Legion of Doom that we saw in Legends? I'm curious, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I keep referring to this as a team-up event, but is it more like a progressive dinner? One week Barry visits Black Lightning, the next he visits somebody else. No, we see Ray Palmer first, which is fun because it's just two old friends catching up for a while until Despero shows up. But then Ray has to leave, and as we start to see other characters throughout the Armageddon event, it's actually more like a true crossover at times. It's not just standalones. We're going to see a lot of different characters in the same episodes, in the same scenes, at the same time. So, once again, I'm a bit, I'm interested to see how they use Ray Palmer then, if it's just them catching up. We know that there's like that technology convention going on, and I guess Ray Palmer would be there, especially because he's left Legends. He's living a normal life now. I wonder if he'll maybe come back into it later. I'm not too sure. I have to wait and see. But this sort of does say that, like, you know, it's not just Black Lightning in a scene. It's not just Batwoman in an episode and just Batwoman and Flash. It's not just, you know, Mia Queen and Flash. There's going to be some crossovers between characters sharing scenes. We know that, like, Alex Danvers from Supergirl and Ryan Choi, they share scenes. I think Kyla Lee, who plays Alex Danvers, says she filmed scenes with Javicia Leslie. So I think they're going to be like doing like the last 3 episodes, and these opening 2 episodes might feel like standalones. So I think those last 3 episodes will, you know, start to lean more into like a true crossover, while maybe these first 2 episodes of the 5 episodes will feel standalone-ish while still being connected to a continuous storyline. But I'm excited to see, you know, just how it plays out in the back half, when I think that's when it will dive into being or feeling like a true crossover that we've seen before. Will we spend some time in the Hall of Justice? We will, yes. That's where Barry and Jefferson / Black Lightning meet up for the first time in the 5-part event. So we saw that in the trailer. I guess the big question was how much time was spent there, but no, I don't think they'd set up that entire set in the Hall of Justice, because it'd be a bit of a pain just to do for like 2 seconds. So I think we'll spend probably a good amount of time in there. I guess it's very interesting to see whether it's just that one episode, which we know is episode 2 for Black Lightning, or whether we get it, you know, in episode 2, then maybe episode 4 and 5 or something like that. I think they'll try and make use of it over a couple of episodes, but maybe episode 2 is where we spend the most time in it. And finally, the final question from this interview with TV Line with Grant Gustin: being 5 episodes of your own show, did this end up being more manageable for you than the traditional grueling annual crossover event? Yes and no. I would say that for production, this was a lot easier to make happen on paper, because it wasn't balancing 5 shows' schedules and figuring out how to get all these different actors on different shows. I'm sure it was harder on people like Batwoman's Javicia Leslie, who have full schedules on their own shows and are coming over to guest star on a different show. I've been there, so I know. So for me, it was easier since everybody was coming to us, but also I had missed the first 2 weeks of filming because we had just had our baby, and then my schedule was jam-packed for about 6 weeks. It was kind of the most challenging stretch of Flash I've had since season 1, as far as the schedule was concerned, but it was cool. It definitely felt like a crossover event. But it, you know, it all took place at home for us. So just quickly on that end thing where he says that he missed the first 2 weeks of filming, that's a surprise. Actually, I did not know that. I don't think actually anyone knew that he actually, like that, you know, in regards to people you'd see talking on the internet and say that they, you know, have stuff from set. I didn't see anyone say that. So that's a bit of a reveal. And it explains why I think episode 1's filming felt so long, because the director for it felt like he was working on his episode for like a month or something like that. So that explains it. It was obviously, they were catching up. And from what I know, once again, this sort of leads into an explanation. They filmed stuff from later episodes while filming episode 1. And it's probably because Grant wasn't there. So it's like, well, we can't just sit on our asses and do nothing. So they filmed stuff for other episodes that didn't have Grant in it. So that explains why that was coming from set, that they were filming multiple episodes at the same time. It's because Grant wasn't available. But obviously, as he said, it was a grueling 6 weeks, and that explains why episode 6, which we know is going to have Bart and Nora coming back, it looks like Barry either isn't in that episode at all or is in like a minor amount of it. And it's probably because they're giving him a break then, because it's just like, hey, he's just done 6 weeks of like pretty much back to back filming. He needs just a bit of time, and he probably hadn't seen his kid, you know, and his wife for a bit as well. So, you know, sorry my watch just went off, but yeah, bit of a ding. But yeah, that's it. That's the first interview, the main one. We might, as I said, we might go over. I'll see whether it's worth it. I'll read over it properly and see whether there's anything different from what we went over in this video. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, if you want to leave a like, it'd be awesome. Of course, if you're looking forward to what's coming based off this interview, it'd be cool if you could drop a like. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions, thoughts, theories, everything else based off this leading into the beginning of this season will be awesome if you could do that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.